think you both kind of have a little different story getting into short hairs or dogs, period. But
well, I started when I was in Arizona in the 80s and got my first short hair pup from a college student that said it was ruining her hangovers. So that was my first short hair, and it was an okay short hair, but it got me excited about bird hunting with dogs in Arizona, and so I sold a shotgun to buy my next short hair, and looking through the back of Gun Dog magazine, because there was no internet to puppy shop.
Yeah.
And I was determined to buy the first puppy that someone could send to me. And it happened to be Emmett Berg with a puppy out of Hillhaven Hustler and Winnie von Instrand. And it was just a streak of luck. Got Greta, and Greta was the first shoot to retrieve champion, female short hair in Arizona, and the fourth master hunter short hair in Arizona. And then Dewey Hicks, who was a friend of mine that I'd met at a hunt test, and he did the breedings with Byers Evolution and Aces Prima Benane. And at one point, he offered me a male, a year old, that Johnny Merrill had been working with. And I took a look at the dog. It was did really nice. So I bought it from Dewey, and it was out of Byers Evolution, Aces Prima Benane. And Greta was a fantastic bird dog, wild birds, pen raised. Not too many pen raised because we hunted more wild birds. And but she could have used a little more range. And Jackson had plenty of range. And so I bred the two together, and that's how I got started. Produced the pups out of that breeding. Most of them became shoot to retrieve champions, and then started line breeding those lines, and all the way up until that's what Fritz came out of. And just searching around for a male for Fritz's mother, Gamble's Low Country Miss, we ran into Sam St. Max. And Sam St. Max was a grandson of Hillhaven Hustler.
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked to some field trialers that had seen him run, and they said the only problem he had was he found too many birds.
Good problem to have.
Yeah. And that's what I was looking for shoot to retrieve dog, and wild birds also, and bred to him, and the rest is history. Fritz, he was a puppy that I sold to, it was my son's pick. He took him, tried to raise him in a land apartment, and that didn't work out. And finally he said, "Dad, you're going to have to take Fritz back." And I'd been working him on birds, so I knew what he was.
Yeah.
And I said, "It breaks my heart to hear that. Bring him up." And I got Fritz, and he was a special dog and accomplished a lot with him.
And that would be, he's your first Hall of Fame dog, right?
Yeah, Fritz was my first AKC field trial dog. And he was the kind of dog that was that good that he was my first AKC field trial dog. Didn't know what I was doing with in AKC field trials. And he finished his field championship in about 4 weekends. And then we started looking at different things to do. And I'd been running him in shoot to retrieve, and he was already a 3-time champion and had placed in the Dog of the Year National Trial. And Chuck Peretti offered to run him in the amateur national. And back then, as long as an amateur's name was on the dog's papers, they could run him in the amateur trial.
Gotcha.
So he ran him, and Fritz was runner-up in that.
Amateur national.
Yeah, in the AKC Amateur National. And then I started looking at different things to do. He was already a master hunter. So we looked at NAVHDA, and the next utility test that they were going to have was in 2 months. So I trained him for 2 months. He had never seen a duck. And he ended up with a prize too. So I was tickled with that. And, we went on, and that was about it. Then I was tired of doing different things, so we wild bird hunted.
Which is what they're mostly meant for. Yeah. We get to play the games with them, so we have something to do in the summer.
Yeah, and he was a fantastic wild bird dog. But to date, he's the only Hall of Fame dog that's an NSTRA champion, field champion, dual champion, and with a NAVHDA title.
Awesome.
Well, I started with probably just like Rick, jumping into some of the best bloodlines there were by accident, which I love the liver. I always loved the liver dogs, and I like the duals because I like a dog that looks good too. And one of the first dogs I had came out of Birdacre's kennel, and that was more Adam breeding, Adam von Fahrenheim, the old stuff that I had that dog from. And so my first breeding, I drove to Chicago or wherever it was and bred to Duke von Weilberg and kept a pup out of that. That ended up being my obedience show dog, NSTRA dog, then NSTRA Hall of Fame dog. And I had been looking at Hustler and decided I wanted to breed her to him, so I did. And in that time, I had met Rick at a national shoot retrieve trial and met his Greta and knew she was Hustler bred too. And so that's when I got my Snips Ticked Off dog, was out of that breeding. And Cricket, Snips Chick von Weilberg, was 9 years old because I ran her so much in trials, I never bred her. And she was 9, and I bred her to Hustler, who was 14. And that's what Snips Ticked Off came out of, Rip. So Rip ended up being a 10-time NSTRA champion, and both of those dogs ended up in the NSTRA Hall of Fame. And while Rick was getting into AKC, I decided I'd try it too, and had a phenomenal wire hair that I was running. And then I ended up with Sam, who came out of a breeding someone did to Rick's Fritz, and Sam ended up with somebody that he was just running off as a puppy, and they brought him back to the breeder. The breeder brought him over to me, and I said, wow, he's really pretty, and I kept him.
He's pretty flashy.
Sam ended up in my kennel and for $500, and he was pretty phenomenal. The first time I cut him loose, I went, holy moly, I love this pup. And, you know, the rest was history with him. He ended up being a field champion at 26 months old. He finished as field champion in 4 weeks. And I went right into Master Hunter and NAVHDA utility. He finished Master Hunter in 6 tests. He finished utility right after that with a prize won. So he ended up a VC dual champ, and he's probably the only Hall of Fame dog now that is a dual champion VC. Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
There's not too many that cross over.
No. And it's great to have a dog that can go that route. Yeah. He could go horseback. He could go walking. He could, it was a little trying at times, but But, those great dogs to me are like that,
Yeah.
They're the ones that keep you on the edge of your seat. So he was like that. But, we got together in probably 1997, and, he came here from Brays Island where he was training, and we started training together. So we've done quite a few dual champions. 2 of the duels I've finished have been the double Fritz breeding by Sam, which were phenomenal dogs, and several other duels.
Sam's produced 9 dual champions
8.
now? 8. Okay.
8, which is, I think, more than anybody.
And he's probably not done yet.
I hope not.
Yeah.
I hope not. We got some more in the works that I think are very capable. But we're kind of aging out here with our dogs, so
Yeah.
we've done most of what we can do, probably.
Well, it's one thing to have a really nice dog, and but it's another thing to have a really nice dog that produces.
Right.
And that's what it takes to get in the Hall of Fame. And hopefully dual champion Benny is headed that way.
And I'm a fan of Benny because I'm a fan of Thunder. So,
yeah, okay.
So I have a little bit of a connection with getting to handle him and get to hunt Thunder, who's a Benny son, Benny Muddy. So,
okay.
I'm trying to finish 3 duels out of a litter that's by Benny.
Yeah.
I'm really pretty close to doing that. Hopefully we can do it. You never know, but
Yeah.
I would like to. That would be one of my goals right now. Is to get that done.
But we ran a lot of shoot to retrieve before AKC, and we one reason we looked at AKC is because we had a pretty good winning streak for High Point Dog of the Georgia region. Brenda's Snips Ticked Off was High Point Dog of the region for 3 years. And then Huff, who was one of Brenda's puppies, was High Point Dog. And then my Rebel was High Point Dog for 3 years in a row. And it was time to do something different.
Let somebody else get a chance.
Yeah.
Well, Huff was one of those dogs. He went to, he was Trekker and my Gidget.
Mm-hmm.
So my Gidget was the one that's behind Higgins. That's the Lancer Wildberg breeding. And there was multiple NSTRA champions out of that. We weren't doing AKC then, but these dogs, looking back at what they were, they would have they've been the Lancer D type dogs.
Right.
They were beautiful. They were beautiful to look at. They were awesome to watch run. And, but it's just a different game. And we had fun doing it. And then we decided we wanted to do something different. So,
Yeah, because that's interesting. You guys both got your start in NSTRA separately, and then met you said at a NSTRA National.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's where we met. Yeah,
it's always fun to have that connection.
He said I was chasing him around with my books. I had all these yearbooks with pedigrees, and I was like, okay, look at my books. Look at this. This is okay. Look at this pedigree. And because I knew he knew a lot, and I wanted his evaluation of the stuff I'd been looking at. I was running down here in Chattanooga with some good old boys running NSTRA trials and teasing me, giving me a hard time. Like, my dog needed a tail, and they would say things that, until I started beating them. Yeah. And, we had a good time though. Yeah. It was great competition and, fun group of people. So, but everywhere you go, you just meet great people.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's good for kids too. My son, Tom, he finished a NSTRA champion and, did all of his own shooting and, helped me train. And then he's still involved. He's in his spare time, he guides hunts at a preserve with his dogs. And so I need to keep it in the family.
Yeah. When you guys were running NSTRA mostly, were you just you didn't have them steady to wing, shot, fall? Or did you?
Steady to wing.
Yeah. And then when you started overlaying and running
my first
AKC?
dog wasn't. Rip wasn't. He wasn't. But we started training them steady to wing after that.
Did you end up handling them when there was some overlap? Did you end up handling them in NSTRA, steady to wing, shot, fall? Or did you?
No, they were always steady to wing.
Okay.
But, they would break. We always had them where we could call them off miss birds or, they were pretty steady.
They'd break when the shot went off.
Yeah.
And then they got to know if the bird didn't drop to come back.
Well, that helped with safety too, right? With shot not going off, it'd be easier to get them moving and get them away from that bird.
Yeah. A lot more control.
I'll have to have a long NSTRA dive on here at some point because it's another little diversion that I think a lot of people, it could be a really good way to get into competition type things, to move from hunt tests to competitions and kind of give another venue to play in. And that's what I done it a little bit. And I had a lot of fun. I was so nervous to shoot my own bird. So
we have long stories about my shooting, but I always had gunners, when I first started, because I never shot and I was very competitive and I just wear them out. And so when I started really kind of ticking them off if they missed a bird, and I would be kind of hard to get along with. And finally, they were like, okay, we're done. They quit. I was shooting for myself. And I kind of got into it the hard way. I was like, okay, I got to do it now. Rick said the day he quit was the day I shot the bird, the dog retrieved, and it was blown up, and I tossed it to him. He's like, uh-oh. I was like, I had to catch that thing. But we had a good time, for sure. But I like to put a senior hunter on a dog before I went into NSTRA, because that got them steady to wing in multiple fields and stuff like that to get them competitive in NSTRA
and set the training in.
Yeah. So
a little more handle,
right.
Exactly.
That's what
honest work.
Yeah, I ran the dog that I passed at the Invitational. I ran her through senior because she's a little bit weaker on backing, and so being able to have her where I could handle her a little more, you can collar them, you can woe them in, you can kind of work with them, and it definitely helps because you get them in the environment. You get them when they're all pumped up and excited.
Well, it's a good way to start before AKC too. And dogs that we don't run dogs in puppy derby, so they don't have a lot of experience, once they're steady and they're ready for trials. So some dogs that do act immature, I'll put in senior first before I start trialing them.
Give them some experience.
Yeah.
It gets them a little more confident in running in different areas, and then gets them competitive for trials.
So what's we can talk a little bit about some of so you guys have 4 Hall of Fame dogs. You want to name them off?
Snips Chick von Weilberg. She was
that's the one I missed earlier.
My liver female, and Snips Ticked Off, the hustler male, and my dog Gamble's Sandman, and Rick's dog Gamble's Odyssey Fritz. Yeah.
So you guys got to see, I'm assuming you got to see some of the, we were talking about Lancer D and some of those dogs that you guys got to, well, maybe not, you didn't see Lancer D, but you got to see, obviously you saw some hustler, or at least, did you ever see him run, or did you just see him afterwards?
Nope. He was old when I bred to him.
Yeah.
And he was in Wisconsin or whatever, so I never saw him. We just knew kind of what we liked and what we went for, and that was, we went for good dogs.
I saw a lot of Dewey Hicks's dogs run, and which were the Byers Evolution Aces Prima Benane. And I got a lot of those dogs in for training when Johnny Merrill was starting to retire. And so I got a good look at those and ran a couple of them. He asked me to run a couple of them and shoot to retrieve trials. It was a good time. Dewey and it was a great honor to know Dewey and Johnny Merrill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've definitely left an impression for sure.
Yeah,
across the country, even though because they were both of them West Coast.
Yeah, well, Dewey was in Arizona and Johnny was in California.
Yeah,
and so pretty much West Coast.
Yep,
that was before my time.
You're the young one.
Yeah, well,
not that young.
Spring chicken.
Yeah.
So, we can chat a little bit more about your guys' dogs and
I don't know. When I started, I did go for the liver dogs, and I went for the duels, which was Lancer's Answer, and Duke von Weilberg. So that was all kind of my foundation. Mm-hmm. Then I bred into some of the Hustler duels, Trekker and Baroque, those two. And so most of my lines are made up from that stuff. Then Rick came along, and we kind of crossed, with his Buyer's Evolution stuff.
And he had a little dash of Wendy and Hustler in there too.
Yep. So it all kind of mixed well, and so all our foundation lines are there. And what we've got now, we've been breeding many years now, mm-hmm. and titling ourselves. And, running dogs for other people and titling them. So you kind of get a really good taste of what you're putting out.
Right.
And if you make a wrong step and you need to straighten something out, you do or whatever. But, it's all about the bloodlines and trainability and, mm-hmm. having a dog that you can train.
And you guys line breed on specific dogs, right? Fritz and Sam?
Yep.
Yeah, and Benny.
And Benny.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we try to pull something in with that each time, something that we know and trust.
Yeah.
Because you're always taking a chance.
I'll say that's difficult.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's always a little bit of a roll of the dice.
Yeah.
It's when you need to do your homework.
Yeah, and figure out, especially hopefully you can. I always like it when I can go and see a male or see. Mm-hmm. I even like to see them more during training, like mm-hmm. when they're getting worked out. That's mm-hmm. I feel like tells quite a bit about the dog. It's not always possible, but
right,
yeah,
it's something that I always try to look forward to.
Well, a lot of times you need to see them in a competition or a test situation because. Training, they're on their training field, mm-hmm. and they're a different dog than when you take them to a competition. Our dogs seem to really come alive at a competition where they, the training field just over and over and over.
Yeah.
I never hunted until I got with Rick, and I just ran dogs. I just like to compete. I like mm-hmm. to win, and so Rick kind of got me on that hunting path, and we'd go to North Dakota every year, and we'd go to Texas. We had some good friends in West Texas that we'd chase birds on their property, and it was kind of eye-opening for me. I loved it.
Yeah.
It was awesome. But
is that all Bob White's there, or was it?
Yeah, in Texas.
Yeah.
Oh, in Scaley's. Yeah.
Yeah. The ranch has Scalies running around on it too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't anything personal, Brenda, when we sent you off with a radio with a dead battery.
I think that happened more than once.
Is that in the Dakotas or is that?
That was in Texas.
Yeah. I'd have to listen to the gunshots to find out where I was because my radio would go dead every time. And I was like, okay. And I'd get so turned around and listen for the gunshots.
It's pretty easy to do. It's big country.
I like to wander off anyway.
Yeah.
I like to take my dog and just go my own way. So, but yeah, we love doing that. Yeah, it's getting kind of harder now, but
yeah, North Dakota was always the ball.
Mostly sharptail?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much all sharptail. And the place where we hunted, the pheasants just barely started to encroach about the time we quit going. But if a bird came out of the grass, you knew it was a sharp tail.
Yeah.
Well, we always went before pheasant season. So.
Yeah, and there was plenty of them, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So we did, he got me broken in on the hunting part of it. People say, you don't hunt your dogs? I'm like, no, I don't hunt. Like, so now I do. So
yeah. Did you handle them in confirmation, or do you have somebody else?
I didn't do that much. I had a good friend, Lucretia Coonrod, who bred to Sam.
Mm-hmm.
She took the jump from the show lines because she handled Sam for me, and she really liked his temperament, liked him. And so she bred one of her dogs. Well, she still had some pretty good field in her stuff. And so she bred one of hers to Sam. And so out of that breeding, we got 2 duels. One of them was Can Point's Summer Lovin', which was Kisses. Kisses ended up being, I think, probably the first dog since maybe Sam St. Max to be #1 gun dog as a duel. Super nice dog, fun dog to run, just awesome. But she ended up being a number one gun dog, and number 5. The day she finished her duel at the end of the year, she went right to Lucretia's hands, and she campaigned her for #1 show dog, which is pretty much year round, almost every weekend.
Yeah.
She ended up number 5. She was a little small, but she was a phenomenal show dog. And I think she's the only dog that's ever done that.
Yeah.
So that was a good run. That was a really good run with her, crossing these lines and taking a chance on us, to breed into field, which not a lot of strong show people do. Mm-hmm. But it was fun. It was fun. Sticks, my dog, is out of that breeding. The dog you saw back there today, he's getting a little older now, but he was a litter mate to her. And so, that was great. I wish more show lines would, take the jump and, try to campaign dogs field wise and get them going in the field.
Well, yeah. I was encouraged to take one of my dogs to a show handlers class, and I did, and they took my dog away from me.
Yeah, I told him,
and I was all for it.
Yeah, we've had different show handlers. Laura Spears, Lucretia's shown lots of our duels. She's handled lots of them.
Laura showed Fritz.
Laura finished Fritz, and when it's too much time for us to take off to go to dog shows, and I would just assume somebody that does that do that, and I do the field part.
Yeah, it's definitely takes a lot of time to. There's so many things that you can do from NSTRA to AKC hunt test to confirmation and NAVHDA, and you almost have to pick something and make that kind of your thing, and then lean on other people. And I think it shows something that you guys were talking about is with Sam is that I'm assuming that was a bit of an outcross.
Yep.
And he still produced 2 DCs, and so something that I think is pretty common amongst great dogs is that they're able to produce even better than they are, or at least as good consistently to even on outcrosses. And that's probably a testament to your guys' line breeding that are getting these traits that are quality, getting them inherited and ingrained, and then they're allowing them to be passed on.
Right.
And I definitely think that is a testament to your guys' breeding and line breeding, and seeing what you saw in those dogs, and then also being able to continue and bringing in new things, knowing that you maybe needed something, or just saw something that you wanted different. It doesn't necessarily mean that it needed something, but maybe you wanted something a little different. So,
well, if you are looking for a dog to breed to, why would you not look at the top producers if you plan on breeding your dog? Mm-hmm. And it just tells you what you're going to get.
Yeah.
Well, I always liked I always liked a dog that was pretty enough to show. I mean, you know, winning at the top levels of show they might not be able to do that, but they need to be right. They need their confirmation needs to be in place. And, you know, I like to evaluate a dog, stack them, go over them before they leave here, and know what you're putting out. And, you know, stacking them like we did today, taking pictures of them from the side, I can look at a puppy and go, this is the dog.
Yeah.
You know, this is, you know, when I put them on the table, I can feel this is the puppy. It's, you know, when you just put them down and they're right there and they're standing right, that's the one. You know, when you got to keep pulling and pushing, and it's like, no, this one's going to be hard to finish.
Yeah.
So, you know, you want that one that just goes, wow, this is it.
I'm comfortable here. I'll stand just like this.
And we also look for a national caliber competition dog. A lot of dogs can get a field champion, but to compete at a national level is a whole different thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've been lucky there with Benny being runner-up in the National Walking Gun Dog Championship, and Fritz being runner-up in the National Amateur Gun Dog and the Shoot to Retrieve Dog of the Year. And Sam was second runner-up in the Walking Gun Dog Championship. So basically, all of our duels have been in the top 4 of a national trial.
Yeah.
And,
competed, so.
And now just need to get Arlo to a national trial.
Yeah, he needs to go. We try to get our amateurs participating in those too.
Yeah.
And if they've got the dog to do it, then we encourage them to get in there and compete.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've had some that have been right up there with them. So we're happier to see that than anything we do ourselves.
Yeah.
When they can get in there and get excited about it.
Yeah, I'm sure the pride of seeing not only a puppy you produce, but I'm sure somebody that you mentored and have helped to see them win. And that's got to be pretty neat. Yeah, we love that. Yeah. So we're rooting them on. We're not always there. Yeah. We don't really like to be there. They're kind of, okay, you know what to do. You know, you go do it. And but we're getting phone calls 3 times a day wherever we're at. Yeah. Letting you know how it went. Uh-huh. Yeah. Everything is like, so we push them on. It's exciting. For sure. Yeah. And to get them to go to a national trial that's everything. Yeah. Yeah. So you got to run, what does it take to get Arlo there? Well, I wish I could have gone to the one last year, but we couldn't get a date when they were going to run it, and we had to schedule our trip to Ecuador. So it ended up we were in Ecuador when that trial was running, and that would have been a good one for Arlo to go to because he had just finished the season and his field championship or dual championship, and next year it's in Oregon, so that's a haul. That's a no-go. Yeah. Yeah. Wait. So is it something, since he's a field champion, you can just enter, or can anybody enter? I don't really know exactly. Anybody can. You have to have a placement or qualify that way, some way. Yeah. You have to. You do have to qualify, and it might just be with a placement. I'm not sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully you do. Yeah. Yeah. It'll be fun. Yeah. Rick's got a new knee, so he's ready. Look out. You don't need a knee on a horse, do you? Yeah. Well, these are walking. This is the walking national. Oh, yeah. That's what we like to compete. Yeah. Yeah, you're ready to roll now. Yeah. Yeah, I'm telling you. We've just met a lot of great people over the 30 plus years that we've been doing this, 35 plus years. And
gained a little bit of knowledge from as we went along.
Yeah.
From all of them. And everybody was always there to offer information, and it all helped.
Yeah, for sure.
I think the dogs that we started with, it's been amazing to watch the bloodlines come around into what they are now.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody thinks old is the best. I think what we have now is the best because we've refined it, we've trained it, we know what we're putting out. It surprises me when people always want the semen from the old dogs. When I say there's great dogs on the ground now that they should be used.
Yeah.
It seems like back in the day, people got on a dog and just used the heck out of it. And these days, I don't see any of that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's everybody's doing their own thing, breeding. And
the short hair world back then was a whole lot smaller.
Well, it was.
It was just like I was saying, when I look for a litter to get a puppy out of, gun dog was about the main place to people would advertise.
GSP News.
And there was only 3 litters advertised. And now any place where litters are advertised, it's just that they're overwhelmed.
Yeah. And I wonder too, if I think people now that run dogs, like if you're running NAVHDA, like you don't even, a lot of people I think that they have to find some NAVHDA dog, or if you're running, AKC hunt test, that you need to find something that's kind of more geared towards AKC hunt tests, where I think, and I may be wrong, cause I've only been doing this for 15 years, 12 years. So I feel like that some of the older dogs were used a little more like that because they were used for everything. So if you needed a good dog, you just needed a good dog, whether you were running NAVHDA, whether you were running NSTRA, AKC. I think that was probably part of why they're used more. It's a good question. And it's something that, we've talked about quite a bit, were the dogs better than, I know for me, why I'm always interested to see frozen breedings, because I want to know what they were. That's the big thing for me is it's kind of like, what were they before somebody else? You can find something that's line bred, 4 times in 5 generations, something's pretty tightly line bred, but you still don't know, is that, what were they? And that's, for me, that's the draw to frozen semen, is just to see more of what they were and what people saw that made them become the dogs that they are, that now, it's hard to look in a pedigree and not see Sam. It's hard to look and not see Fritz. Honestly, I mean, you can just grab any short hair, look at a 10 generation pedigree, and I'll bet one of your guys' dog is in there. And, that's because somebody saw something in them at some point. Now, nobody's maybe continued down that path correctly, but so I see that and go, well, I want to know what they were. And that's why I think, these kinds of conversations help too.
When you mentioned that, the NAVHDA people look for NAVHDA dogs and hunt test people look for hunt test dogs. In the early days, everybody looked for field trial dogs because they didn't have all the different sports. There were no hunt tests, and there was no NAVHDA. And so everybody started with field trial dogs.
Yep.
But field trial dogs back then were different too. So
yeah,
a lot of German import in them. And
yep. And I think people back then looked for dual dogs. And, you wanted a dog that looked good and could run too. And
pick your ducks up out of the pond or the river when you shot them.
That's right.
I mean, because everybody hunted their dogs, and if you shot a duck, you needed it picked up.
Well, and to be a field champion back then, they had to pass a water test.
Yeah, they had a water retrieve, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's probably why, like, you had such natural duck search dogs, is because they probably had that, that had not been diluted or anything like that. It's not like,
I have no idea where our dogs got it, but they had it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
I think it's because of the lines. We've been line breeding since the beginning.
Probably.
Because because they
Hustler and
probably had it.
Wendy and Buyer's Evolution and Ace's Prima Benane and Lancer D and the Wildberg lines.
That stuff.
That's what NAVHDA dogs are made out of, somewhat.
Yeah.
Today.
And I think if you have a dog that has a really good field search, as long as they're happy and comfortable with water, they're generally going to show that in the water as well. They're going to be confident. They're going to be happy to go out there and splash around and look for ducks and maybe even like it a little more because there's a lot less rules. I just get to go chase this duck down and catch it.
Yeah. I used to have a hard time getting Fritz out of the water.
Yeah.
He'd just be out there swimming around.
Sam too.
And
I think, we try to start our puppies in water because we have them in the summertime. And so before they leave here, it's hot. So we're putting them in the tub when they get hot. Well, they get where by 7-8 weeks old, they're trying to climb in the tub themselves because they know that's where they're going to get cool. And that helps a lot. Yeah. I think getting those puppies started into a little comfortable area of walking around and getting in the water, it's no big deal when they encounter it later.
Yeah.
We get dogs into train that, Lord, you can't shove them in the water. I mean, they haven't had that experience of being taught. That's where they cool off. Yeah. And it freaks them out. And we try to get them in the water and the creek and places that we run them so that they...
some of them you can't get to cross the creek.
Yeah.
Had to hook check lines on them and pull them across.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a creek.
Yeah, they can walk.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What does it look like?
Water's only 6 inches deep.
Yeah, so if it's the one where you drive over, it doesn't look like it's that deep. It's a little wide, but I have to take 3 steps or 4 steps in the water. That's funny.
But that's a big deal. I mean, I think puppies at a young age need to get familiar with water. Yeah. And later on, it's, they take right to it.
Yeah, anytime you can get them comfortable with something as a little puppy, it always helps.
Right.
Further down the line. Yeah, Kat and Ethan are they have a pond right behind their house, and Thunder and Quest have to have collars on because right now they'll go out in the pond and just swim.
Yeah.
They won't come back. Like, no, this is what we want to be out here doing.
That was Fritz.
I seriously lost Sam when that little dried up pond out front used to hold some pretty good water, and it had good edges and stuff in it, and it doesn't hold water anymore. But I lost Sam, and we were looking all over the place. And I drove down, I thought, I'm going to go check the road, make sure he didn't head out to the road. Yeah. He was down there crisscrossing that pond because I'd had a duck down there with him one time. And that's where I found him, crisscrossing the pond looking for a duck. And I thought, who knew he would be down here doing a duck search?
Yeah, of all the places.
Yeah. I mean, there's fields, places he'd done birds, hunted, trained, everything. He was down there in that water. There wasn't a dog on earth that loved it more than him.
Well, maybe it was that field 3 right there in the front.
Yeah.
So he might have done the loop, came all the way around, and then he said, well, didn't find anything out there. Let's look in the pond.
Wouldn't doubt it a bit.
Yeah. Oh,
that's funny.
I was relieved.
Yeah. No.
And that's another thing that is interesting about our dogs is we don't take them out to the plains to run them, to get them to run big. They learn on 30 acres. And then when taken to areas with bigger fields, they'll completely lap a course in the beginning and they'll break away and end up going all the way around, visiting with the gallery, coming in from behind you. And then, pretty soon they learn there's birds out there. And
figure it out.
Yeah, they figure it out.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting that we don't really have to go to big, wide open areas to.
We don't really have that access, handy from here. So, the wild birds in our area are gone.
Yeah.
So we have to train with what we got, and get them going on it. So.
Yeah, it was interesting how you talked about how you get them learning to get to the front and be successful to the front, and then just build off of that.
Right. Yeah.
No, and you see dogs that naturally have it, you know.
You just got to help them a little bit.
Yeah. You just got to
reinforce it.
Right.
Yeah. Just, that's what I want you to do, that you're doing the right thing.
Yep.
And just keep riding.
Yep. I mean, there's dogs you put your hands on to train and then you just go, wow, this is, that was the way Lady Mezzy was. She was a Sam and Molly. I don't know. Anyway, the guy brought her to me to train at 2 years old. And I was like, holy moly, this dog is just what you're looking for. And so, I made sort of a deal to let's duel her. And, I get that's what I want my puppies to be out of is this dog, and, so sure enough, let's go in and do this. And, I got a litter out of her and she finished her duel in 10 months time. That's her field and her show champion. She was that amazing. And I knew it. And so that's what my Poppy out there in that litter box is, out of that female.
Yeah.
And so, but that's what you want for your breeding program is the dog that does everything easily.
Yeah.
You don't spend a lifetime finishing a field champion on them. You
spend a summer,
right?
Or a spring,
a season,
yeah.
Right. So,
and then, if you can,
if
they're built right, then finish them in the fall, and then
she did that, and then she went on and ran in the nationals and got an honorable mention there. So she was. Is she just this last time or no?
A while ago.
That was that's been maybe
3 years ago.
3 or 4 years ago. Yeah. Last year it was Shooter. He got an honorable mention in the nationals. He's the sire of this litter.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, those are the dogs you want in your whelping box.
Yeah.
The ones that are getting it done and do it easily.
That's the easiest spot.
Yeah.
Start there. It's way easier.
Well, I mean, as opposed to people that just put two dogs together and hope for the best.
Right.
You have to use the dogs that are getting it done. And hopefully the puppies will end up in the hands of people that want to do that too. So
seems like that can, in some ways it's harder, but in some ways it seems like it's, I don't know,
it's
easier.
Hard.
But
it's hard to get puppies where in those hands.
I think it's definitely hard field trials.
Yeah.
I feel like that's getting harder and harder to get to see puppies running in field trials, get people involved.
It is.
Yeah. It's
very hard. It's very expensive.
Yeah.
It's a big undertaking for people. So, only certain people can really indulge in it probably, and
if they don't have a support system to help learn and unless they really like winning like you, then it's going to be tough too, because if they don't have somebody to help them train and I can see how it would be difficult and why I think some people are more drawn. Well, there are some breed clubs, like I think there's a breed club in Missouri that is pretty good about training days and stuff, but it's pretty hard to find that anymore for anything outside of NAVHDA, really. Yeah. I mean, I know the NSTRA club in the Des Moines area, they did quite a bit of training.
Georgia region has started doing that.
Yeah, and I think that has helped them maintain and grow, is that I think the training days really get people started, and at least you can get them going in the right direction, and then hopefully.
That's what happened to me with Shoot to Retrieve. When I first started, I had Greta, and there was a trial in my backyard at Flagstaff, not actually in the backyard, but a few miles away in the forest. And so I've joined NSTRA and entered that trial and went out there and didn't have a clue as to what I was doing, and didn't do any good. So I decided, well, this isn't for me. I'm more interested in hunting wild birds. And the next year, a professional trainer came up in the area, put on a Shoot to Retrieve trial at the same place. And he remembered me from the year before, seeing me there, and knew that where I lived, I guess. But he came to the house, knocked on the door, and he says, look, come on out here. If you're interested, I'll show you some things, tell you how to be competitive. And so I did. And within 2 years, Greta was the high point dog of the Arizona region. And but if you don't have the mentors, then you're probably going to end up with a dying sport.
I know the first time I ran, NSTRA has a program. I think the first 6 times you run, don't quote me, but you can have somebody from the club or just that's there can come in the field with you, and that helped me a ton because I had zero idea what I was doing. So they're like, nope, that's a safety. You need to move on. You need to do this. And I was running a dog fresh off a master, so she was straight wing shot fall, handled easy, and I ended up with a 3-bird field, and I don't know, mid to top 10 somewhere in my very first time out. And I was like, well, this is, this, if I had more time, this would be, I like it. And the way that they held their trials, it was a time that worked really, really well for me, and I could go running them. And I think that's something that NSTRA did that I think if people know about it and can use it, it helps a lot.
They have made some great improvements in the beginning. And that's when Brenda and I started running. It was still a pretty new sport.
Dog eat dog.
They didn't have the amateur program, which encourages people, and they didn't have the mentor program, which you're talking about. That's super.
Well, one of our clubs where we trial has a junior stake, and this is the most fun thing I have ever done. The kids are handling the dogs, and they let somebody go along and give them guidance if they need it. Just kind of follow along. I did that with one of the kids, and he left me behind. And I was like, okay, so they got in the cart and they drove me up to him, and I got back out and I was helping him. But it was the most fun thing ever. I mean, watching these kids handle and back and flush the bird and blank and it was just a blast. And these kids got so excited about it. I mean, they were up at night just excited to do it, and that's what it's going to take to get handlers going, to me, in some of these broke trials,
so they don't run once and then quit.
I also think it's interesting they're talking about doing puppy derby, like a puppy derby stake at a hunt test.
Yeah, I've heard
for
that.
AKC.
Right.
Yeah,
I've heard
might
that.
be able to get some people
to switch over.
Also, well, I mean, I think there's a lot. I mean, there is a lot to learn between the things, but a steady dog is a steady dog. If your dog is truly steady wing shot fall, then you can roll between a few different things. I mean, you can run them in NSTRA that way. You can run them, obviously, in AKC hunt test field trials. You can run NAVHDA. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff you can do with a well-trained dog. And I think sometimes it just takes a little nudge to show up and give it a shot.
Yeah. And that's where it starts, with the training and the breeding.
Yep. And I think, I really think that might help if somebody was there, maybe running, a younger dog, and then could run a derby stake or a puppy stake at a hunt test. It'd be pretty neat. I don't know. I'd be interested to see if they end up doing it or not. But
yeah,
I bet they will.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Well, this was a lot of fun, and watching these kids get that excited about it was more fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. You're kind of trying to figure out, now, who am I going to let him run? Because I got to run a trial next weekend. So you got to kind of, give up on your dog a little bit, but it's worth it,
So were the youth there, and then they got to handle, people would just let them handle any dog, or
They're
was
field trial dogs mostly?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was the dogs that were running the trials. So some of them have older dogs, that they'd put down and let them run them.
Well, so it wasn't even the youth dogs. It was they just got to.
It was more the parents' dogs. And some of them probably may be their dogs, but it was more the dogs that were the trial dogs the parents had, but they had to learn to handle.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, being a handler, and, the dogs know them somewhat. but it was just, getting in there and doing it.
Right.
That's the hard part. And
they can learn their handler errors
right
at a much younger age.
Like we all do.
Yeah.
I mean, every day.
It was fun to watch.
It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. There's handler errors.
Oh yeah.
And it's all about the learning.
Yeah, because there's always a decision to make.
Yeah.
Should I? I'm going to do this or this. Well, I'm going to do this.
I've made plenty of wrong ones.
That was wrong.
Yep.
They might have both been bad, but that one was definitely not it.
Yeah. Do I relocate? Do I not?
Oh, relocating.
Yeah. Yeah, that's done me in a few times.
Oh,
I love a dog that relocates.
I do too. But,
I love it. But and most of the time I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love to see a dog with a pretty relocate. And my old Logan dog, I could tell him okay, and he would bust up 100 miles an hour and slam a point and never bust the bird. And it was a sight. I mean, any good judge would know
it looks good.
It's a pretty piece of work.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. Yeah. And I've given up a few stakes because I've done it and it didn't work out. Yeah. But when it does work out, it's pretty to watch, I think. Not enough credit to me is given to a dog that does that in a real good way.
Yeah.
So
not to slink up there.
That's smart. Yeah. It's just it's smart. And it's a lot of instinct, and it's always a chance. But,
yeah. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Tracking a running desert covey or a pheasant, and knowing how close you can get.
Yep.
Yeah. And, just smarts. The dog's got to have some smarts.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse in a field trial than sitting there and watching a dog tiptoe around for 10 minutes trying to find a bird. And, you really want to see it right now. Let's just do it. And that's to me. I sit there and think about the judge sitting on the horse. What's he want to be looking at? A dog that's tiptoeing around trying to pinpoint a bird for 10 minutes, or a dog that finds the bird right now.
Yeah.
Nah, that's just me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I know what I want to do when I'm hunting.
Well, sure.
And it's not kick around or have a dog creeping around, or I want them to
move up.
Go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Be on point. And if the bird's not there, let's get it pinned down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. Anything else you got, babe?
I'm done.
All right.